All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life. All my life.
Welcome to Darren and Sterling right here on ESPN Kansas City, 1510 AM, 94.5 FM, 1510.com, and Facebook Live. Sterling Holmes live in studio. Darren Smith doing it from his studio. Darren, I got very lucky yesterday. My car, the brake, I'm driving home, and the brakes decide, hey, you know what? Let's have the old floor or the old pedal go straight to the floorboard. I'm talking just straight to the floorboard. I'm sitting here going, well, this is not ideal. We have that massive hill I have to go down around 104th by Corporate Woods, and I can't stop anything. Luckily, the light's green. I make it, and now it's at the shop getting fixed. So, wild way to go home. I'm back in the studio. We're all good. Everyone's safe. So, it was a wild, I guess, what was yesterday? Monday? I'm getting the days confused just based on this cold, brutal, disgusting weather.
Well, in your defense, I got the dates, Mr. I thought it was Tuesday for some reason. So I was looking forward to watching Big Sky last night, and it comes on tonight. So the days threw me off as well. This has been the longest, coldest winter that I've experienced in some time. And I don't call it me being away from, I guess, being spoiled, being down in Florida 2 years in a row. To come back to this. First of all, I'm glad you're safe. And I know we talked a little bit. I know we checked a little bit last night. So very happy that you're safe. Glad that you're getting your truck worked on. It was interesting because we were texting, and when you told me that that your brakes went out, I'm just like, how did you even get home? And then of course you were telling me about the hill you gone down. And I've traveled that hill many times over in over by Corporate Woods, and so the fact that you made it safely and made it down a hill to get to the highway or to get to your place safe without any trouble. Yeah. Somebody was watching it. I don't know if you believe in a higher power or not, but something was watching over you. So be thankful.
Yeah, I had the old hand on the emergency brake the entire time, going 5 miles an hour. Emergency brakes on, emergency lights on. And then, of course, I can take it in $100 fix because that's what happens. So if anyone wants to sponsor our show, like maybe an auto body shop that can do repairs, feel free. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there.
While we doing that, let me go on just to throw a cash app on there. So, so people, if you want to, of course, it'll come to me first, and then we'll just sponsor over to Sterling. There it is. $ digital 816, and I'll make sure Sterling gets it.
This is what we call the trickle-down effect. Is this the trickle-down economics right here? It goes to Darren, then he gives me a little bit.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
So I'm curious though, for $900, it wasn't insurance or nothing that takes care of it, something like that, or
it was multiple things. I go outside this morning, and of course, you have the coolant leaking everywhere. It was a multiple problem thing, apparently. So, that's what happens when it's negative degrees. It happens when it's negative degrees. That's life. But let's get into some sports. Let's stop talking about the woe is me and get into the woe is Draymond Green. Draymond Green went out calling out the double standards when it comes to organizations and when it comes to players, especially when it comes to the whole trade scenario where they sit out when they get purposely set by teams and they get labeled a locker room cancer. I think Draymond actually has a decent point here. What did you make of Draymond Green's comments?
Well, I thought it was more than decent. I thought he hit his, right on the head. Because if you stop and think about it, there is a double standard. Of course, he talked about James Harden and the, because we talked about James Harden earlier this year or before he got traded to Brooklyn. The fact that how he was kind of being a malcontent and showing up way overweight, and then of course the last straw was just basically saying that they didn't think his team was even win in my locker room, so they kind of just told him go home and we'll worry about trading you. But of course during that time period, people were getting on his case. If you stop and think about it, the reason why I said that his point was spot on, because you remember this whole thing with Kawhi Leonard and this, resting, or what was the word that they use as it relates to
load management.
Load management. Okay, so the NBA, they frown on that, and they also frown on I guess when the players were kind of protesting LeBron and them wanting to sit out nationally televised games. What did the NBA say? Well, if you're healthy, you need to play. Well, case in point, last night Andre Drummond was first suited up to come out and play, and then they sent him to the locker room, had him in street clothes. Well, he was fully healthy, but they said we're not going to let you play until we can find a team to trade you with, or like Blake Griffin, we're not going to play you, as well. Because we want to trade you. They are fully healthy, and consequence to the team for doing what they're doing, because basically they're doing the same thing as if LeBron James wanted to sit out a nationally televised game and he's completely healthy. So I get where he's coming from, and to be quite honest, the NBA needs to do something about it, because if I'm the NBA, I'm calling the Cavaliers, I'm calling the Detroit Pistons. Hey, you need to play those players. They're healthy. You're paying them. Because one, now you're looking at a competitive balance that's being persuaded one way or the other, with a healthy player not sitting out. So that so now you're kind of tipping the scales towards the other team. Now, I'm not saying that they're a James Harden, LeBron James type player, but if you're fully healthy and you're Andre Drummond or you're Blake Griffin, I mean, people besides myself bet money on these ball games where where those players not playing has an impact.
So I still the best point made is with if you're going to play these guys, and if you're going to complain and make them hold out and give them this label of a locker room cancer, even when it's not their fault, that's a bad look. I'm okay with the Cavaliers saying we're going in a different direction. I'm okay with them saying, or the Detroit Pistons saying, we're going in a different direction. That to me is okay. I think it's fair. For example, to Andre Drummond, I think it's fair that the Cavs say, we're going with Jared Allen. We want to be respectful to you. We're going to try and trade you so that way you can go to a contender or at least get minutes on another team. I think that's fair. What I don't think is fair is when they're labeled as a locker room cancer, they're labeled as a problem, they're labeled as someone who is complaining, because that's not the case. Andre Drummond is an all-star. Andre Drummond is one of the best rebounders in the past 20 years. Andre Drummond could be a factor on a contending NBA team. So I don't blame Cleveland for trying to trade him, and I blame them for labeling them and having the stigma that it's because it's a locker room cancer type of situation. That, to me, I have an issue with.
I guess my pushback on my question would be more so than a pushback, is that when we look at the situation that took place with James Harden, he asked for a trade before the season started, and they were kind of emboldened, like, we're not going to trade this guy until he ended up doing what he's doing. So if a player asks for a trade and tries to do it in the right manner, asks before the season and tries not to make a big deal of it, but the team doesn't do it, then he goes the route that James Harden went. I mean, how do you consider that? Because again, it's six in one hand, half a dozen in the other, to where, James Harden is looked at as a bad guy, but what you're saying, what the Cleveland Cavaliers are doing and what the Detroit Pistons are doing seems to be okay.
With my issue is, James, you signed that contract. You signed for a lot of money.
Yeah, well, hold on. No. Detroit and Cleveland, they acquired those players in trades, or they acquired Blake Griffin in a trade. So I mean, so what I'm saying
different.
Hold on. But it's the same, because Houston signed those players, so they knew the price tag when they did it. Detroit, Cleveland, they signed or traded for those players. They knew the contract when they received them. So I'm saying, so they were both on the all three are on the contract for the team. Harden just wanted out of that situation where the team wants to separate them, because now they realize, oh, we're paying you all this money. Well, we got less. We have maybe better talent for a lower price. So now we want to get rid of you so we can take that money off the books. I don't really see how that's different.
It's different. The players should have more control as far as in that situation. I think Drummond and Blake Griffin should be in more control because they were traded and they didn't sign with those teams. I think James Harden, he shot himself. You sign your contract there. You demand all these players to come in and play with you. You get Russell Westbrook in, and then you don't want Russ. Then you bring in Chris, or before that you have Chris Paul. You don't want Chris Paul. They tried everything they could to make James Harden happy. They did, and it didn't work out. So I think James Harden, that's on him. I think Drummond and Blake Griffin have a right to be upset. I think they didn't choose to go to Detroit and Cleveland, to middling, poor teams. So that's where I think it's different. Is I blame more James Harden, and I don't have any ill will, or I don't think they should ever, Andre Drummond or Blake Griffin, be labeled as malcontent or locker room cancers.
Well, so I really hate disagreeing with you from time to time, but that kind of doesn't make sense because a lot of players in any sport, don't look at who's the destination where they get traded to. That's more of an organization to organization. Unless you're a top player such as James Harden, where you can kind of demand where you want to go, and even then, they had to do a 4-team trade just for that to happen. To make that work. So. Because look, the other players that got traded didn't actually go to the respective cities that they went to. Am I correct in that trade?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
and I'm with you.
So again, I'm just saying that, again, Houston signed, and I know we had a big discussion about Harden in this situation a month or a while ago when that situation was going down. But I'm just saying, in comparative to what we're seeing in Cleveland, as well as what we're seeing in Detroit, is that my point, and I think what Draymond is talking about, is that these are healthy players, and you're not playing them because you're trying to trade them, get the numbers off the books. But the NBA, if the players were just decided that they wanted to sit out because they wanted to load manage, the NBA would have a problem with it, and they would force the teams to force them to, or like if it was Pops, they would force them to play those players, because it's like for the betterment or for the competitive of the league. But here the team is, a guy is completely healthy and you're not playing him. That's the same thing. It might be a different way of telling the story, but it's the same thing.
Sure. No, and I'm with you, and I agree with that. With that point, that's the point I do agree with. Although I will say, I don't think Blake Griffin is actually helping the Pistons at this point. Blake Griffin's shooting 36% from the field, 31 from three, 12.6 boards.
Hey,
that's trash.
But that's still 12 points. That's still 12
no,
points
it's not.
that you're putting in
12,
there.
They're not equal. All points are not created equal when you determine 30. The most inefficient as a big man, unbelievably abysmal shooting. That's so inefficient, it's almost hard to wrap your head around that is Blake Griffin. I feel bad saying it because I like Blake Griffin. I think he was such a fun player to watch. But, dude, if you are a big man shooting 36% from the field, averaging 12 a game and only 6 boards, that's bad. That's trash.
Well, there are actually more bigger big men that's averaging less rebounds than he is. And he's not even playing the minutes that you're talking about.
Hey, my point is, they aren't shooting 36.5% from the field and jacking up 3-pointers.
Well,
They know their role. You don't see Enes Kanter doing that.
Said that the man's we already talked about how the man's game has differed since he's been acquired by Detroit, where he's not that power forward that we remember back in LA. They have him obviously playing more so off the ball and basically more like I said, jump shot. Again, he's not being asked obviously to do what he was doing in Los Angeles, but again, I blame Pistons. I blame and the Pistons. They're looking to do more of a rebuild, and in his favor, or at least for him, they're looking. I guess they're looking out for him, where they're trying to put him in a better situation where he can go to a playoff contender. But what they're asking for too might be too much as well. So again, it just depends on how you look at it.
If you're asking for anything more than a second-round draft pick, you're probably asking for too much at this point. And I feel it's weird saying that about Blake Griffin, but he had those good couple of seasons when he got to Detroit where he changed his game. He became almost like a point forward. He had all these assists. He was playing and evolving, and then I don't know what happened. Last year and this year, he just completely fell off. I don't know if it's just old age hit him quicker than most, but it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch the same Blake Griffin as the same dude that was dunking over cars.
Well, you gotta remember, what you say. Did you say he's over 30 or something? I mean, this ain't the same guy that was at the University
He's probably like
of
31.
Oklahoma. Well, but like you said, jumping over cars and stuff, that's going to have an adverse effect on your knees later on as you age. And so that's one of the things that's happened with him.
Yeah, he's 31. It just, to me, that it seems pretty quick for a guy who was that explosive to fall off. I know he's had a ton of injuries, and that has to play a part in this. It's just weird seeing Blake Griffin with zero explosiveness. Just to me, I want to say something because I think it's funny, and you and I were joking about this before the show. When it came to the Brooklyn Nets, I was laughing with beards. I go, if the over and under is 260 for the Nets, I'm going to take the over. They scored 261 points combined last night. It's crazy how the odds makers. I was like, I don't care if Durant's out; they're still going to put up tons of points. It's crazy to me that a team, the over under is going to be around like 250, and that's not even out of the equation right now.
You know what? That's one of the few bets where you stop it and thinking, does Vegas really want me to make money? Now, here's what's interesting. They were the actual underdogs yesterday. And I told you I meant to put money on that last night, but I just I was preoccupied with some other things. But looking at it tonight, they're a 7-point underdog, so that's kind of scaring me off. I might take them. The 7-point underdog, as well as taking, the over. I mean, man, 228 points. Now, unless Phoenix has somehow, gotten to become some great defensive team that I'm not aware of, I'm gonna, during the break, I'm gonna look and see what they've done the last few ball games and what they've scored. But I know they played Philadelphia. I think it was Saturday. So I know they won the game. But I told them if for some reason that this stays at 228, I am definitely taking the over in that game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they have Chris Paul, fine defender. DeAndre Ayton, very good defender. Michael Bridges, very good defender. But still, it's not like there's some world-beating defensive team. That just, to me, seems so low. Because they give like 40 points to Ben Simmons. If you're giving up 40 to Ben Simmons, no Embiid, yeah, I will rip that over. But we do need to take a quick break because when we come back, we'll be joined by David Lesky, who's go ahead.
No, I was going to say, before we take a break, I will say, especially if they can continue, if Brooklyn can continue the shooting that they did last night, it's 27 3-point shots now. Granted, I don't know what now. I'm hoping Kyrie Irving can hit 9 3-point shots again, and James Harden hits for 6 of them. I mean, if they do that, I'm gonna have a good night. I'm definitely waiting to see what the odds are when they're throwing up shots like that night.
Darren basically saying he's got 5 on it. Is that what you're saying?
I might put a little bit more than $5 on that one. I might have to.
All right. Darren the better. But we do got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by David Lesky of Inside the Crown, Baseball Prospectus, Royals Review, as we talk some Kansas City Royals baseball. We'll be right back after this.
A KC tradition since 1957, Hereford House is a locally owned steakhouse that has served generations of Kansas Cityans. Hereford House exclusively serves certified Hereford beef, which has been proven to be naturally more tender and flavorful than other brands. All their steaks are aged 21 days, hand-cut daily, and grilled over an open charcoal flame. This process provides a wonderful aroma and delicious flavor that cannot be duplicated by any other cooking method. Hereford House, Leawood, Independence, Shawnee, and Zona Rosa.
What's up, Kansas City? What's up, Kansas City? Tell you about my friends from Lightstream, a division of SunTrust Bank. Are you thinking about the high interest rate credit cards you used over the holidays? I am. When it comes to refinancing your credit cards, you've got options. But only Lightstream was ranked #1 by J.D. Power for customer satisfaction with personal loans. Lightstream's credit card consolidation loans start at just 5.95% APR with auto pay and excellent credit. You can save yourself thousands in interest. You can even get your money the same day that you apply. Apply today for a credit card consolidation loan from the company J.D. Power, ranked #1 for customer satisfaction and personal loans. Plus, get an additional interest rate discount simply by going to lightstream.com/Jake. It's LIGHTSTREAM.com/Jake. Subject to credit approval. Rates range from 5.95% APR to 19.99% APR. Include 0.50% auto pay discount. Lowest rates require excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/Jake for more information.
In these trying times, Kansas City Credit Union knows how important cash flow is in your household. With rates near all-time lows, now's the time to take action. Free up some cash by lowering your monthly car loan payment when you refinance your auto loan with Kansas City Credit Union. And as a bonus, Kansas City Credit Union will delay your payments for 90 days. Visit kansascitycreditunion.com/810sports for more information. Kansas City Credit Union, your path to financial freedom.
A KC tradition since 1957, Hereford House is a locally owned steakhouse that has served generations of Kansas Cityans. Hereford House exclusively serves certified Hereford beef, which has been proven to be naturally more tender and flavorful than other brands. All their steaks are aged 21 days, hand-cut daily, and grilled over an open charcoal flame. This process provides a wonderful aroma and delicious flavor that cannot be dictated by any other cooking method. Hereford House, Independence, Shawnee, and Zona Rosa.
If you're between the ages of 18 and 39, here's an amazing deal for you. You can become a young professional member at Tiffany Green's Golf Club. Monthly rates starting as low as $150 a month with unlimited golf, unlimited cart usage, unlimited practice range, member discounts, and much more. So get your friends and coworkers and join in on this amazing plan and start growing your friendship while enjoying the game of golf. Whether you go out and play as much as you can after work or enjoy the day on the course on the weekend, take advantage of the Young Professionals plan at Tiffany Green's Golf Club. Go to TiffanyGreensGolf.com.
Welcome back to Darren and Sterling right here on ESPN Kansas City, 1510 AM, 94.5 FM. We needed some Santana because the Royals signed Carlos Santana. Well, yeah, both. I mean, not only the Eagles, but all the things. Into our next guest, which is David Lesky, who is in Inside the Crown, a new adventure he just started. Very exciting. If you like Royals baseball, if you like David Lesky, make sure you check out Inside the Crown. David is with us now. David, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
I'm doing fantastic. Cold as hell, but
a little chilly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, spent too much money on my car, but besides the terribleness, I'm excited because we finally get to talk some Royals baseball. You started Inside the Crown, and your previous article that you just had talking about high fastballs really got my attention because, as Darren knows, I'm not a fan of the old tropes in football when it comes to control the clock. You have to establish the run. Well, in baseball, it was always make sure you pitch low. Don't leave anything up, which we are starting to find out that may not be the case. In your article, give us a look back about the high.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of my look at it kind of started with what you were saying. You always hear keep the ball down, and don't do that because if you think about it, it's just logical. How do you get leverage? It's physics, right? You can lift the ball easier if your arms allow you to take that motion. You can't see me, but I'm actually making a swing motion right now. It just does literally nothing for anybody but myself. But as you on a pitch lower in the zone, it allows a hitter to extend his arms and loft, right? Pitch higher in the zone, it's a lot harder to get that ball up. Now it's possible. It can happen. But it's a philosophy that has kind of gained some steam over the last few years. The Dodgers use it quite a bit. A lot of the more analytically driven teams have been on the forefront of utilizing a guy who had been doing it for years with the Tigers. He was way ahead of his time with that. And it's a good way to get hitters out. There's some issues with it, of course. If you miss, you could potentially, if you 3 inches lower and you're in the heart of the plate with a fastball, which can be dangerous. So there are risks, but the Royals had really not done a whole lot in the upper part of the zone in recent years. And then this past season, they all of a sudden started pitching up in the zone again. And I don't know if that's Mike Matheny coming in with his new analytical tilt, having spent that time between managerial jobs learning the analytics side of it, I think it's encouraging that it happened in his first season. I think it's encouraging that Cal Eldred, a guy who I've ragged on for not being analytically inclined at all, was the pitching coach of the team that did that. They had a lot of, as I put in the article, they basically 1 out of every 4 2-strike high fastballs, and I call high the top of the zone and just above it. So, way high doesn't count. That's a miss. Whatever. Anything a little bit below the top of the zone doesn't count because that's a problem pitch. But in those pitches, in those 6 zones that you can find on, I don't know if you ever go to Baseball Savant, but it's baseball nerd paradise. In those 6 zones, a quarter of the Royals pitches they threw with 2 strikes became swings and misses, which was the best in baseball. That to me right there, that means it works. To me, that's how I interpret that. And so I think they need to do it more. I think they've got a lot of guys who really like their breaking pitches, and you saw that with Brady Singer quite a bit. He's a guy in the article. He really well the fastball, and the upper third fastball, and slightly above. But I don't think he used it quite enough in situations where he needed to swing and miss. I think he went to the slider, which is nasty. He's got a great slider. But I think he could have been even better if he maybe worked a little bit more up in the zone and down with that breaking ball. So that's kind of where it all came from. It was a really long-winded explanation there, but I believe, I think the Royals, if they want to take a step forward with the pitching staff, if they can use that high fastball even a little bit more and continue to be as effective in 2021, they could be really good.
Well, hell, I mean, at some point you have to look back. Chris Young was throwing 86 mile-an-hour high fastballs and was getting dudes out. So just think if someone like Josh Stallmont, who throws 98 to triple digits, does it. To me, this is always something that you always heard, that old trope of keep the ball down. And then I'm starting to wonder, but why, as you watch Mike Trout and all these other power hitters literally balls out of your stadium. The one that always stuck out to me and why I realized it was maybe not true, Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge was the first guy to go, okay, if you keep the ball high, which is against all the former old school type of thinking, he struggles. And then you look and take the numbers around the league and you notice there's actually a trend of where it seems like today's hitters, especially power hitters, struggle when the ball's up. So I'm glad you did the research on this to actually go out and find this. I want to ask both you and Darren a question here. I saw that they gave the Royals a 10% chance of making the playoffs. What do you think? Is this fair? Is the Royals at 10% of fair chance of making the playoffs? Does that seem right?
David, let me take this quick.
You go ahead.
Yeah, and David, I said it because Sterling and I had the same conversation last week to where I asked him, looking at the roster, which kind of goes into the question I was going to pose to you. Looking at and Sterling, to your point, I was actually eating a burn-in today at Gates Barbecue, and I was talking with Ollie Gates, and he was asking me about the Royals as well, that we both think that the Royals are maybe a year ahead trying to go for the playoffs now versus next year. So to my question to you, and you can follow up on Sterling's question as well, looking at the roster from top to bottom, looking at those 9 positions, do you think the Royals are in a win right now type of scenario where you look at that lineup, and that lineup to me looks like you can compete against anyone right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of ifs still on this Royals team, and that's not surprising because they're not, they don't have a lot of veterans. I mean, they have a few veterans in the lineup, but they don't have, their pitching staff is fairly young outside of Holland, Duffy, and Minor, really. They've got who are veterans, but we just don't know. We don't know a lot of stuff quite yet. We don't know if 2020 was the beginning of the end for Carlos Santana, or was it a blip? And it's just a short season. Who knows? I mean, the thing about 2020, we don't know anything about anybody from 2020, and so that's a bit of a big concern. And so I think what they've done, instead of, it's not, I don't think it's quite as simple as, is this a win now move or not? I think or win now off season or not. I think really what they've done is they've tried to win more. It's a win more off season because there is value in development and winning. And they lost 104 games in 2018 and 103 games in 2019, and their 26-34 record was roughly a 92 loss pace in 2020. If they make the general next step improvements and they go 76, 87, 86, and 86, is that enough? I mean, you're not losing a ton. You're not losing like you were in 2018 and 2019. So maybe it's not a big deal. But I think they look at this season and say, look, we want to get to 500. We win 82, 83, 84 games. Obviously, they want to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. But I think from a development standpoint, getting over that 80, 81 win hump, I think is a kind of a big deal for a lot of the young guys. And I think we'll expect this season. This is another weird year because you've got a bunch of pitchers who threw like 60 innings, and you're asking them to throw 180 innings. There's going to be a lot of movement up and down the roster this season. And so you're going to see guys like Daniel Lynch and Jackson Cohar and maybe Asa Lacy and Austin Cox and, all these guys who we've heard about for a couple of years at least. They're going to have a chance to perform for this team. And so can they win some more games? Really, to really win in 22, I think where the eyes are. And so to get back to the 10%, you look at this division, right now there's only 5 playoff teams in the American League. Now, it's Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball. So he could very well say in like mid-July, we're going to add 6 playoff teams. We have to account for only 5 playoff teams right now. And I think if you look at the American League Central, the White Sox on paper are better than the Royals. The Twins on paper are better than the Royals. That's 2 teams to face. So you not to say they can't beat them, not to say they can't have more wins than them at the end of the season, but on paper those 2 teams are better, and the Yankees are better, and that doesn't matter because they're probably going to win their division. You look in the American League West, the Astros are probably better. The A's, they're so weird, but they win every year. They might be better. I mean, there are probably the Blue Jays are better. I think the Red Sox are better. They're probably kind of on par, which is too bad for the Red Sox because they should not ever be on par with the Royals with their financial backing, but that's their issue. The Indians probably pretty similar as far as the general on paper what they could be. So you're looking at 9-10 teams, and the Royals are toward that 9th or 10th team, I think. But I think they're within shouting distance. And so I don't know if 10% is the right number, but I think when you look up at the end of the season, I think there's a good chance they're within 8 to 10 games of a playoff spot, which, I think if you can say they're within 8 or 10 games, 10% is probably about right. 10, 15%. That means 1 out of every 10 times they make the playoffs, and I think that I don't think they're one of the 4 best teams in the American League, and they're probably not 5th, 6th, or 7th in my opinion. So I think 10% may be a touch low, but it's not too far off. I don't think.
David Lesky got the confidence on Darren and Sterling today here on ESPN Kansas City, 94.5 FM, 1510 AM. So David, to that point, what should some realistic expectation be this season from Royals fans? With the offseason moves that Dayton Moore has made this past season or this past offseason.
I think a couple things. One, you're going to see largely competent baseball, and that sounds like a really downer thing to say, but I don't mean it that way at all. I mean, I remember this was back in 2013. I did a round table on another show, another station in the preseason. The question was, what would you say makes this season a success? And I said to play a competitive, meaningful game in September, because it had been so long since there was anything meaningful beyond Labor Day for the Royals for so many years. And I don't think we're quite at that position because it's still really recent. They were contenders, obviously, won the World Series 6 seasons ago. But I think you're going to see solid baseball in Kauffman Stadium. I think that they have a chance to win every single game. They won't win every single game, obviously. I think if you're looking for a win total, Right now, I'm kind of leaning 78, 79-ish without having seen anybody. But the thing about the Royals that makes them dangerous kind of tough to gauge is all those young arms. I think in 2021, because of what we saw in 2020, with the pitching and the innings limits that we're going to see moving forward, and how few innings were pitched in 2020, I kind of feel like you look at retention, might be important. And the Royals have a chance, and this is all banking on young guys developing, which is risky, but they have a chance to have one of the better 6 through 10s. And so that, I think, allows them to kind of stick around when some other teams might fade late. And so I think the Royals have a chance to be a little more consistent throughout the season than some other teams. Again, it's dependent on young pitching, and I'll say it again, it's scary. It's hard to look at young pitchers and bank your season on that and go, okay, I'll feel good about it. But with this group, they've got a lot of guys who I really think their 6 through 10 could be on par with a lot of other teams, and so, or better. And so, yeah, I think you're kind of hovering around 500. Look at that and be ready to take off next season.
So we have to talk about the trade that I am absolutely in love with, and that's the Andrew Benintendi. All people are saying you think 2019 was a bad season. You obviously have not watched a lot of Royals baseball because his OPS was actually above average. But that's neither here nor there. 2020 was a blip. Injuries. And it was also such a small sample size. I think it's too difficult to judge off that. If you judge off his previous major league experience, you go, this is a dude who's growing as a legitimate, solid player in left field. He was the number 1 or number 2 based on what you want to, whatever you looked at, prospect in 2017. People who are complaining about giving up Khalil Lee and Franchi Cordero, I'm just sitting here yelling, going, are you kidding me? Have we not seen this play out before? All these potential, quote-unquote, toolsy guys. Is this a great trade? What kind of grade would you give it?
Okay, so first of all, I want to mention 2019. His end result was solid, not good. Not great. It was good, not great. Good, not great. He looked fourth. He's strained his obliques that day and missed, I think, 5 or 6 games after that. Look at his numbers on August 24th, and then look at the numbers the rest of the season that he played through the strained oblique. His numbers in 2019, to that point, before the injury that he should never have played through, were right in line with 2018 that had everybody thinking he was a superstar. So it's not even just that his 2019 was down a little bit. It's that his last month was the problem when he was playing hurt. And then he goes into the 2020 season, he plays 14 games, 52 plate appearances, I think. I mean, look, if you're judging on that, you can't. I tweeted something sort of facetiously about how well he'd hit in Kauffman Stadium in 39 plate appearances. People said, oh, that's not enough. That's not enough to make a state judgment. I'm going, well, first of all, yes, I know that. Second of all, but you're making the same judgment that he was bad in 2020 on 13 more plate appearances. So you can just wipe that. There's a lot of factors there. What they gave up for him. Franchi Cordero is 2 months younger. He is 2 months younger than Andrew Benintendi, and he has all the potential in the world. But, Andrew Benintendi's been good, been well above average. Franchi Cordero could eventually get there, and I love Franchi Cordero. I hate having to give him up because I just wanted to see what he could do. The Kauffman Stadium's hard to launch home runs, and he makes the stadium seem small. And so I think that could have been really fun, but he's 2 months younger. He's 2 months younger than the guy. He has one less year of service time. So he'll be free agent just 1 year after Benintendi. Clearly I like Khalil Lee too, but again, he's another guy. He hadn't made adjustments that he needed to make to become a good player. And so, I think the Royals, we'll see what the players to be named, but it sounds like they're not anything too big to worry about. I think they need a guy who gives you a professional at bat, and they added another one of those. Now they've got 4 guys in the lineup who I think you can reasonably, not only I expect, but pretty good idea they're going to get around a 10% walk rate or better, and that's in Benintendi, Santana, Soler, and Dozier. You've got now 4 guys who probably will give you a below average or better than average. I don't know how you want to say that. Strikeout rate, strikeout less than average. And that's with Santana, Benintendi, and Salvador Perez, who people think he strikes out a ton. He doesn't actually strike out as often as you would think. He just doesn't know what a strike is.
Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah, but not quite as good, but yeah. And you've got a little more balance, a more professional hitter in the lineup. It lengthens the lineup 1 through 7. I think has a chance to be pretty good. And if you look at the Alberto signing, if he puts second base against lefties, they're gonna do fine. I think they're gonna have no problem hitting against lefties this season. So yeah, I think it makes the team better, and it makes the team better without the expense, without hurting the team in other ways. Really, Khalil Lee became expendable because you've got Kyle Isbell, who isn't as toolsy, but probably is a lot more likely to put it all together. Brewer Hickman's another guy who, if Khalil Lee was going to be a fourth outfielder, Brewer Hickman can be a fourth outfielder, I think. We kind of forget about Edward Olivares. I mean, the Royals got Franchi Cordero for Tim Hill. It took Trevor Rosenthal to get Olivares. They have some pieces in place that allowed them to move Khalil Lee. Like I said, another guy I really like, but I think they got a good one in Benintendi, and I think he makes the lineup better. I think he makes the team better, and that's what's important.
David, I'm curious.
David Lesky of Inside the – oh, sorry.
No.
You got it, Darren.
I'm sorry.
You asked this one.
Yeah, David Lesky joined us from Inside the Crowd. I'm curious because obviously pitchers and catchers are starting to report for spring training, which starts for them today as they start to report. What are you looking for with this pitching staff that you hope to see in spring training that will trickle over to the regular season?
Kind of the same thing that I was looking for last season that we saw somewhat, but not enough. I want to see more strikes. This staff, they have good stuff. You look up and down the staff, and the rotation is a little bit more on the wily side, we'll say, with guys like Mike Minor and Brad Keller. And Minor gets strikeouts, but he doesn't throw it exceptionally hard. It's not exactly the dominant staff that you hope for and that we could see in the future, but really just throw more strikes. I can't imagine anything more frustrating than seeing somebody come out of the bullpen or start the game or whatever it is. It's just, you can't find the strike zone. It's infuriating. It's like when you're watching, for me at least, when I'm watching a football game and my favorite team cannot move the ball, there's nothing you can do about it. It's so infuriating. It's the same thing when you see pitchers not be able to throw strikes. And so that's a really big deal to me. But in the bigger picture, look, it's about Daniel Lynch, Jackson Kowar, Asa Lacy, all these guys, Austin Cox, Jonathan Bolin, Zerba, who they added to the roster this season. All these guys, but the young guys, I think the biggest season. And right now, it's the pitching, and then probably sometime middle of the season next spring, it's about Bobby Witt Jr. and Eric Pena and all these guys who can be the next offensive stars of the Royals. But for this year, I want to see those young guys hit the ground running. I want to see them get some innings in spring training against other big league competition, see how they handle it, see what they learned from the alternate site last season, because it's something that we've never seen before with how they were developed last season. Every team has the same limitations. So I'm just very curious how they respond and how they come out of the gate.
David, better odds on a superstar or a breakout type of season, Benintendi or my dude who I've been trying to crush on for the past 3 years, Mondesi?
Well, for a breakout, I think it's Mondesi. Because when Mondesi is on, it's hard to find somebody who is more exciting and who can do more than him. I mean, you look at his last 20 games or whatever it was from September 3rd on. I mean, he crushed, and and he was doing it with the better eye at the plate. Even he walked 8.2% of the time in those last how many games it was. And then there's a lot to like there. So if you want to talk about just completely exploding, better chance Mondesi. Better chance to be an above average player is Benintendi, because I think that he's probably already there. I don't think there's a whole lot of work for him to do, other than just kind of get back to what he was before 2020. But yeah, I mean, Mondesi, look, until he retires, or probably until he hits his mid-30s, people will say this guy's going to break out and be a
That's
superstar
me.
because the tools are just insane. You don't see guys who have guys that have to play and can play defense the way he plays defense. You just don't see much of that. And so until he proves he doesn't have those tools, you're going to hear about those tools. And so hope one of these years he puts it together. And it's not just the last 20 games. It's not just 75 games like he did in 2018, whatever it is. Hopefully one of these years he puts it all together, because if he does, it can be really special.
David Lesky of Inside the Crown joining us right here on Darren and Sterling on ESPN Kansas City. Before we let you go, we want to hear all about Inside the Crown, a site that you started that out of nowhere you just dropped this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to follow you. So already loving your stuff, very analytical driven. It's very good. You gave out your position players, your picks on who you think is going to make the opening day roster. Give us a little background about Inside the Crown.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of based on something I used to do in baseball. I used to baseball prospectus. I don't remember what day it was. I used to write for the prospectus notebook, which was you basically take something that happened in the game in the night before, and with baseball prospectus, it was all around baseball, not just the Royals, but and you really break it down, and it can get really granular, and it's kind of fun, actually. I feel like, to break down a pitch and a sequence, whatever it is, in a really analytical way. And so my thought was, I would like to do that with the Royals, and that's ultimately what this is going to be more of. But obviously, there's not a game to break down. So, when you write on a larger network of sites, it's sometimes you don't get your pick of the litter of articles, and so. I'm still writing on Royals Review. You'll still see my articles there on Fridays, and some new series previews on Royals Review. But this has given me an opportunity just to kind of do my own thing a little bit, and not worry. Oh, did somebody write about this 2 weeks ago? Or somebody want to write about it next week, whatever it might be. So it just kind of gives me a chance to just kind of do me, I guess, in a writing way, and it's kind of come full circle. I started off, 11 years ago now, 10, 11 years ago, writing just my own little WordPress site. And now it's a cool site because you have the opportunity to subscribe to emails. And so whenever I hit post, it's going to come to your inbox, and it's a different way of writing than it used to be. But I'm rolling with the times, and I became an email mogul last week.
Well,
send those out not every day, but a lot of days a week.
Well, I know I got the email, and that's how I originally saw your high fastball article. So make sure you guys go to Inside the Crown, subscribe to his emails. You can follow him on Twitter at DBLesky. David, we always appreciate it. We always want to give some more this offseason.
Sounds good to me. Thanks, guys.
Of course. We'll take a quick break. This is Darren and Sterling right here on ESPN Kansas City.
Hey sports fans, Joni here, and I'm excited to tell you about the newly opened In the Zone Cryo. In the Zone Cryo will help decrease pain and inflammation, accelerate muscle recovery, increase your energy, and boost your immune system. In the Zone Cryo also offers InstaSculpt fat reduction, personal training, infrared heat, compression therapy, and more. Mention Sports Radio 810 and receive 10% off your first service. Come see us at College and Metcalf. Call 913-208-4859 or visit inthezonecryo.com. Feel, look, and perform your best with In the Zone Cryo.
Are you looking for unique sporty clothing and merchandise that makes you stand out from the crowd? Do you love Kansas City sports teams? The Cherry Company designs and creates fashion-forward gear for athletes, avid sports fans, and everything in between. Check out our famous KC Mahomes denim jacket at cherrysportsgear.com in Lee Summit or Plaza location. Sport Styles, Sport Local, Sport Cherry. Want a 20% off discount? Mention 810 Sports in store or use code 810 online. Stay on top and visit cherrysportsgear.com today.
Schlotzsky's has just what you need to start the new year out right. All of their sandwiches and pizzas are made with their baked fresh from scratch sourdough bread. At Schlotzsky's, they offer curbside, drive-through, socially distanced dine-in, catering, and delivery. And remember, the Schlotzsky's $24.99 lunch and dinner special for a family of 4. Any 4 medium sandwiches or pizzas with 4 chips and 4 cookies for just $24.99. Available at all 5 area Schlotzsky's. Funny name, serious sandwich. That's Schlotzsky's.
When the unexpected comes calling, bounce forward with Comcast Business. Bounce forward fast with internet speeds up to a gig. And bounce forward with the flexibility to update your bandwidth in just a few clicks. Get started with a live solution and voice solution from Comcast Business. $90 a month for 12 months with a tier agreement. Call or go online today. Restrictions apply. New customers only with 35 megabits per second service and 1 voice line. Early termination fee applies. Equipment installation taxes and fees extra and subject to change. Call for details.
In these trying times, Kansas City Credit Union knows how important cash flow is in your household. With rates near all-time lows, now's the time to take action. Free up some cash by lowering your monthly car loan payment when you refinance your auto loan with Kansas City Credit Union. And as a bonus, Kansas City Credit Union will delay your payments for 90 days. Visit kansascitycreditunion.com/810sports for more information. Kansas City Credit Union, your path to financial freedom.
Add a stylish look to your bathroom and save big money during Menards Race to Savings Sale. Max has more than 1,000 bathtubs, shower kits, and shower doors to add luxury to your life. Use how life gives a shower the people installs in half the time. Right now, the Halo shower is $1,879.99. Save big money now during Menards Race to Savings Sale. Prices are good through February 20th.
Save big money at Menards.
Welcome back to Darren and Sterling right here on ESPN Kansas City, 1510 AM, 94.5 FM, 1510.com, and Facebook Live. Thank you again to David Lesky of Inside the Crown coming on, giving us a Royals update on this chilly offseason. Again, it would be really nice to be at spring training right now, wouldn't it, Darren? How nice does that sound?
Well, it'd be nice to be any place other than Kansas City right now with this weather. So
it's like 90% of it's like 90% of Kansas or 90% of the United States seemingly is covered in snow and snow.
I don't, or Hawaii, I just don't know what to say for you because I looked at my phone, it was like 65 degrees in Tampa, and I'm like, oh, what I wouldn't give to be back down there right now.
What's funny is that seems pretty cold even for Tampa. It's like the entire United States is on this. You know what? They're like, screw it. The sun said we're taking the day off. The sun goes, we're taking a week off. We're going to reboot. We're taking some me time.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting about this show is that even like 65 degrees down there, because if it rains, it goes away and then the humidity kicks in. It's really hotter than than the temperature itself even states from time to time. So again, look, we're fortunate. Obviously, of course, you gotta travel back home, and hopefully, your vehicle will get you there. I'm at home right now in the man cave, so it's some of us, some of us are lucky. Of course, we do keep them in our thoughts and prayers because there are the rolling blackouts, and there are people across the country who are and look, let's not forget those who are actually homeless. If they don't have a place, or if the city hasn't provided a place for them to go to just to get out of this freezing temperature. I do know that there was a death on a bus stop yesterday off of 76 and Truth. A person that was only 38 years old froze to death. And so let's keep, we kind of joke about the weather, stuff like that, but we do need to, keep in mind that there are people out there who are less fortunate than us that might not have the ability to be, in a warm, safe dwelling. So we do want to, be mindful of that, even though we do kind of joke and stuff about the situation that we're in.
Yeah, everyone's got to stay as safe as possible. Everyone needs to try to help out any way you possibly can. We keep everyone who does seriously, it's a scary situation, especially places like Texas who have never experienced anything like this. They don't have the infrastructure for this type of brutal cold, this, the polar vortex, whatever they're calling it, it's definitely a scary situation. So we want to keep everyone in our prayers, keep everyone hopefully safe, and try to help out your neighbors, help out your friends, help out anyone you possibly can. So we want to make sure we make sure that's well and known. Darren, I wanted to ask you, Kawan.
What the point spread is? No, I was going to ask what the point spread is and what the over-under is tonight now. So,
what is it now?
It's actually over 227. So for some reason they got it going lower. So I don't know what's going on. But
is like James Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant just all of a sudden not playing or something? Because I understand if KD's out, we know KD's But if James Harden, Kyrie, or James Harden, ain't no defense being played. There's no defense being played by the Nets. We know that. So, I'm still gonna rip that over.
I would be look, I'm gonna rip the over, but I'm also gonna do a parlay. I gotta I need to see the kind of numbers that I can get for both, because I think I'm just gonna do something with just Kyrie and James Harden. I think if I just stick with those two tonight, do it out a nice little parlay, I should be okay for the evening.
Yeah, you and your bets. Before we go out, one final thing was the Carolina Panthers cut and released Kawan Short. Anything here? He's been hurt. I get it, but is there anything here with what was the former best defensive player for the Carolina Panthers?
I don't know, man. 5 games over the last 2 seasons. He could be a contributor in Kansas City, but at what cost? He would have to get close to the league minimum or veteran minimum, because obviously we have to get the cash. That is a big loss. Well, that is a loss for Carolina, but to what extent that he would benefit Kansas City, only Brett Veach would know.
We'll talk about that and more tomorrow on Darren and Sterling right here on ESPN Kansas City. Thank you guys so much for listening. Stay safe, try and stay warm, help out your neighbors. We'll be back right here tomorrow at 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. on 1510 FM or 1510 AM 94.5 FM. We are